in the 2028 LA Olympics, flag football teams will have 10 players on their
Okay.
rosters with 5 people on the field at the same time. It's a 5-on-5 team.
Okay.
How many teams of 10 from the United States could you build before another country would be better than that team?
It's got to be like 10 teams. Oh, yeah. I mean, I was trying to be generous.
Mayo experience.
Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Mayo experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog. Code Mayo at Underdog. In case you didn't know, it gets you a deposit bonus of up to $1,000. Additionally, you get a free pick in the Pick'em game. That's where you want to be, on the Pick'em streets. I was actually just on a Best Ball Underdog stream with Pete Overzet over on Pete's channel from Monday afternoon yesterday. Pete, I think people should go check that out.
They absolutely should. You engage, you kind of went heel turn. You know, generally people come in, they're being friendly with the chat, warming up. You just went after the best ball community, no holds barred, and then won them back over. I think that's what the good comedians do. You alienate your audience at the start of the set, and then you win them back over throughout it, and that's what you did.
Didn't help that you carried me to drafting a pretty good team over there. So that was fun to do. We've been doing some streams like that on this network. I have one out with Davis already. I have one out with Nez, doing some of the different football contests on Underdog. And there's like over $22 million in prizes on Underdog for this NFL season alone. So if you're not on, you should probably go get on. You know, I'll be doing a ton of pick'em work throughout the years too. Just, you know, props. Who doesn't love props? Get it on the props. That's where the real action is at. And you can get that, take advantage of the big deposit bonus. That would be my big thing, because then you can use that to do the drafts. Then you have the extra money left over to play the pick'em game, Pete. That's the strategy that I like to deploy when I'm going to new places.
Well, this is going to be our partnership. I'm going to help you out with the best ball drafts. You're going to help me out with the pick'ems, and together we will be an unstoppable force that never loses money.
Well, we can find ways to lose money. If people have watched this show long enough, they can figure that out. So smash the like in the comment section right now. I saw that the Browns have the best odds to be the worst team in football. I don't think it's going to be the Browns. You give me who you think is going to have the fewest wins in draft number 1 overall down in the comment section of this video. I'm giving away a PXG driver at the Open Championship, and this will get you in that draw, as well as a rating and review on the Apple and Spotify, and subbing to Mayo Media Network. All those things get you ballots in the draw. So even if you don't like golf, I'm sure there's someone in your life who wants a $700 driver. Just throwing that out there. Pete, I haven't talked about Aaron Rodgers on this show yet, since he ended up signing. It happened while we were doing the live show, which comes out Thursday. And Cuss had some thoughts on it, but it was his birthday. Now he's away. So we're kind of waiting for him to unleash on Aaron Rodgers. The people are waiting for it. But if you're Pittsburgh, has to be like a home run move. Even if it doesn't work out, this was the only out that you had, isn't it?
It's the only out. I guess you could say the Kirk Cousins stuff, but the Kirk Cousins stuff was going to be expensive because the Falcons aren't letting him go without another team, you know, taking on a chunk of that contract. So it was like everyone was being held hostage together. This was the only spot for Rodgers. It was the only, you know, viable option for the Steelers. I guess if I had to be, you know, not give the Steelers their credit, it's like you had 2 starting quarterbacks on your roster at the start of the offseason in Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, who are both also going to start week 1. And you put yourself in this mess in having to be reliant on Aaron Rodgers wanting to play for your team, which I don't know if that's the smartest situation to back yourself into, but I guess it's all a wash now.
If it was you and you had to have the choice of one of those 3 quarterbacks, I'm guessing it would be Aaron Rodgers. Like, to start on your real, if you were the owner of the Steelers and you could say, I could have Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, or Aaron Rodgers, 10 times out of 10, you're picking the 58-year-old Rodgers.
I'm not. I'm taking Justin Fields.
Why?
Like,
you saw it.
Well, because I still believe that he gives you the most tools to run an offense. And the Aaron Rodgers looked so bad last year, and all he had was his binky and Devontae Adams, and that connection looked okay at times. But like, the weaponry is worse here in Pittsburgh. I guess the one thing is he's used to playing outside in the cold, you know, with Green Bay in New York, but the talent, the division is tougher. Like, how is this going to work out if he couldn't make it work with Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson last year?
You'd have to hope that Pittsburgh's offensive line can hold up with pass blocking if they can do that, because that was a big downfall of the Jets last year. That, yeah, Rodgers wasn't good, but he was still a year removed from blowing out his Achilles. I would actually expect him to be probably better than he was last year. He started to show some flashes down the stretch, as much as I don't like to admit that Gus was right about it, that towards the end of the year, maybe it's just because he was in YOLO mode. He's like, yeah, I'm not coming back. I don't need to worry about this at all. And he did have better options to throw to, granted. But if they can give him a little bit of time, could he be, I'm just trying to think of like where he would fall. If we were doing our quarterback, like real life quarterback rankings right now, like realistically, in terms of winning football games at the moment, Drake May is going to be a better quarterback, and I'd want him for the next 10 years. But for this year alone, if I was trying to make the playoffs, I know, you're in the Boston area. Everyone's probably just like sucking themselves off about the Patriots, but they're not that good. Like the Steelers are probably going to be better than the Patriots. And you just have it's hard. It's weird to call Aaron Rodgers a professional, but he's a veteran. If nothing else, he's probably not going to turn the ball over a ton. And I know he doesn't want to take a hit anymore. So he's just going to throw that away. Basically that run that you saw from Russell Wilson last year from week, 5 through 10, when he actually looked pretty good, wasn't turning the ball over, is what I think that they're hoping to get the full year from Aaron Rodgers, but with a few more well-reasoned passes rather than Russell Wilson just trying to jam it down everyone's throat.
And I think that's really the big question, because I do completely agree. The Steelers' infrastructure, they are built to squeak into the playoffs. Like, they're not built to have losing seasons. The defense is good. Tomlin is a great coach, but there's this element of having to fit into the system. And Aaron Rodgers, like, he's the gunslinger mentality. He wants to audible out of the call. He wants to do his own thing. How is that going to mesh with Arthur Smith, another controlling personality? Like, I think if he's willing to kind of play ball and just be part of the cog of the Steelers machine, I could see it working. But can't you also just see Aaron Rodgers getting fed up, checking out of plays, trying to make miracles happen? He doesn't have the mobility to extend plays anymore. Like, it could get ugly really fast as well.
I think that actually works out well. I think it's a double hedge for the Steelers because their infrastructure has been so good that they don't end up with any of these top picks. Therefore, they're never in the running for the future quarterback. They need to hope that guy falls to 17. Like, they tried that with Kenny Pickett. It just didn't work. That if Rodgers goes good, then maybe you can finally get out of the first round of the playoffs. Like, if Rodgers is actually back to even 80% of what he was 3 years ago, they'd be a pretty formidable team, even if we don't really know who the wide receiver number 2 was going to be. Like, after DK, is it Calvin Austin? And like, you're in the, we were talking about who's the dude on Chicago that everyone's drafting?
Oh, Luther Burden, the rookie.
Yeah, it's gonna be a burden to your team when you draft in fantasy. You want Roma Dunze from Italy or DJ Moore, but on this team, I assume Roman Wilson's being drafted like he's a guy who's going to do something this year.
Yeah, he doesn't get drafted in every single draft, but since they added Rodgers, people are clicking him a little bit more. They're obviously clicking Pat Freiermuth a little more, who I actually think meshes really well with Rodgers. We've seen him target the tight end over the years, and if you don't want to pay the premium on DK Metcalf, who's pretty expensive as like a mid 4th round guy, I kind of like, if you are going to get a piece of this offense, let it be one of the running backs, let it be Pat Freiermuth, just play it really cheap. And don't bank on, DK Metcalf being able to survive whatever happens this year.
I may be misremembering because you watch Darnell Washington outscore Pat Freiermuth. Because I feel like that's the Aaron Rodgers that I know. He had the big Jermichael Finley year that one time, but I always feel like they just run out 3 generic tight ends and he just throws to all of them. Like Richard Rodgers had 8 touchdowns one year, I think.
Yeah, the Darnell Washington, because he's that huge dude who's an absolute force. He looks like he's an offensive lineman or whatever. So yeah, you can see him getting a little playing time, but I think of it more just as a byproduct of, when he was in Green Bay, he had lots of options of weapons. Like, there just isn't much. When Roman Wilson, who barely got to play last year, and guys like Calvin Austin, who's like 4'12", which isn't an actual height, that would be 5 feet, but 150 pounds soaking wet. It's hard to think who else is he going to throw to other than his tight end, Pat Freiermuth, who's been pretty good over the course of his career.
Are we not thinking like this could be how old is Robert Woods now? Is he like 35, 36? He's probably not. He just feels that way.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what everyone's wondering. Like, is he going to be able to get the Jets to trade Alan Lazard, or is he going to coax Randall Cobb back out of retirement? Because no one likes playing with his former teammates more than Aaron Rodgers. So, yeah, I agree. He has to have some kind of, card up his sleeve in this regard.
Yeah, so Robert Woods is 33 right now. So if you think he has anything left in the tank, I mean, he's likely there for blocking purposes, depending on what they want to do. This team, like even fantasy wise, like how are they being drafted? Is Caleb Johnson going first, or is Jalen Warren going first now?
Caleb Johnson is going first. It's kind of funny how those ADP shook out because it's basically they're treating it, the market, I should say, is treating it exactly like it's the same situation as last year. It's just Caleb Johnson is now Najee Harris. So, Caleb Johnson goes around pick 75 where Najee went last year. Jalen Warren's more like the flyer, kind of fun secondary back going around pick 100. And it's just the same as last year. You just put in the rookie for Najee.
I don't think that the Steelers' backfield would have played out the way that it did with so much Najee last year if Warren hadn't hurt his hamstring right before week 1.
Yeah, I agree. I think there was the injury. And also, if you think stylistically, like Justin Fields, and I guess Russell Wilson is more similar to Aaron Rodgers as far as what you want with Jalen Warren is a bunch of checkdowns. He's a really good receiving back. He's also good rusher. But I think where you really make fantasy hay with him is if he's catching a ton of balls. I think Rodgers will be checking down to him a decent bit. And he is just a talented runner and receiver. And there's always the ambiguity about the running back where Caleb Johnson, he fell in the draft. He was slower than people expected at the combine and in a really strong draft class that really hurt him. So this Steelers team who wants to win games, Rodgers is not going to want to deal with a rookie running back who is making mistakes or not protecting him. So there's a chance you just see Jalen Warren as the primary back. So I have been taking Caleb Johnson, and have been tilting my bets to Jalen Warren.
See, I can get behind that too. Now, is it selfishly because I want him to be a little bit better? Maybe, because I might have some shares of him in one of my oldest fantasy leagues where I've just been holding on to him for 3 years now. It's like, yeah, maybe now is finally the time at no cost. But maybe he is a low usage guy. He's a Lamar Miller type where he is optimal at 12 touches a game. And if you gave him 20, nothing would be different.
Yeah, I do think you can worry about that. We've seen it over the years where it's like Pollard looks like a revelation when they're giving him, 12 to 15 touches on the Cowboys. And then he gets, 20 touches the next year and just looks like the worst running back in the league. So I think there's a little concern there, but I think there's so much room for him to add touches because his role has been more like 8 to 10 touches. It's like, let's actually just get him to the 15 touches and then we can talk about there being more. But yeah, you can really see the upside with Jalen Warren this year. And I think the only thing keeping his price in check is we've all been burned chasing it the previous years. And the team has been so stubborn with Najee Harris, but Najee Harris is a veteran, doesn't make mistakes, the kind of consummate pro. You hear Harbaugh raving about him now in Los Angeles. So it makes sense why the team was reluctant to ever give Jalen Warren more of a featured role. This year, they might not have a choice if Caleb Johnson isn't up to snuff.
And as I mentioned before, you have the duel out with Rodgers that if he sucks, then you're just down with the ship and you finally get that high pick.
That's true. That's true. And they might head that direction because, again, the thing is Rodgers at this point in his career, he doesn't want to be mentoring anyone. He doesn't want to be part of a rebuild. He's going here to be a playoff team. And if that thesis dies early, they're 0-4, 1-5 or whatever, it's going to get ugly because Aaron Rodgers is not going to want to be party to a really crummy team in the last, year of his career.
And then you can bring in Mason Rudolph. He'll look like somewhat competent. The blue collar workers although I don't think that's a thing anymore because it's not 50 years ago. I think Pittsburgh's big in tech now. But the fans will, if you have a shit team, but you have a backup quarterback that people do like, and I think the Steelers fans do like Mason Rudolph, it'll make them competitive for 2 or 3 games, and they'll just get on board with that. You've made the playoffs all these years that I think that their fans would understand, finally bottoming out for once.
I mean, that's the thing. I think most fans are okay with one or the other. It's the purgatory that sucks. It's sell us on hope or sell us on the playoffs. It seemed like they were going to head in the direction of all right, let's actually tank here. We're going to roll into the season with Will Howard and Mason Rudolph. And then nah, we're going to go for it because I do think Mike Tomlin as a coach is just incapable of tanking. The man is not wired to plan for another year. He's I'm going to go out there, I'm going to win 9 or 10 games and I'm going to get us to the playoffs and I'm going to do that until the day I die.
Which I don't understand because when you actively watch his X's and O's decisions or game management, he actually seems like a terrible coach. But I assume he's from the Pete Carroll school of you're not good, but I'm going to make you good. And I'm going to get 100% effort out of you, where you do see the coaches that go the other way, where you have this great talent. They can't get anything out of them. That he's at least he's able to get everyone on the same page. And in football, that's worth so much more than just individual talent a lot of the times. But as an actual coach, I don't know what he does well.
Yeah, and I mean, there has to be something similar. Obviously, it's a lighter version of what Belichick was able to do in New England, where he just has this culture. It's his show. He's found a way to make it operate. They've also been pretty good at drafting over the years. They obviously had that run of wide receivers, although they kind of all flamed out once they left the Steelers, your Claypools and Antonio Browns, but they had a nice stretch there. So I think they just have like the guardrails of like a solid foundation, and people come in and kind of like they did in New England, they just fall in line. So yeah, it's hard to say that he hasn't created a culture of winning at the very least.
Well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about New England. New England is, I think, one of the more fascinating teams from this offseason, because now that the Jets are done their experiment with Rodgers, that they're going to bottom out, no one really believes the Dolphins will do anything at this point. So who is the logical successor to be the team that finishes behind the Bills? Well, it must be the upstart Patriots, but they bring in Mike Vrabel. And everyone's really jazzed up about Mike Vrabel. But I find Vrabel is exactly like Mike Tomlin in a weird way. Like, yeah, he does extract what seems to be the most out of this talent, but I couldn't tell you, look at Mike McDaniel. Is Mike McDaniel a good coach? I have no idea. He knows how to game plan an offense with certain pieces and, get motion on the go. Can he coach defense? Probably not. Is he a great motivator of players? Probably not. But at least I can point to one thing that I can figure out, at least visually see that he does well. What is it with Mike Vrabel that people love so much, that he took a kind of bad Titans team to an AFC championship game and that was it?
I think Mike Vrabel is way more about what happened with Jared Mayo last year than it is about Vrabel, where they tried to do kind of like the young progressive, hire, like, let's get one of these on the rise coaches, and it failed spectacularly. In their way to, kind of right the ship was to swing way back in the other direction, be like, let's get one of the old guards, let's get one of the institutional coaches here who can like restore order in our organization. And I'd argue, and it sounds like we're on the same wavelength, where that hire doesn't make sense for a team that actually is on the come up, that needs a more interesting, offensive mind. And maybe New England fans would argue, hey, that's why we brought back Josh McDaniels, who has always been able to orchestrate a solid offense. But I'm with you. It doesn't feel like the fresh feeling you want with an ascending offense. And like, you compare it to what the Bears have done. It's like, let's go get the best offensive mastermind. Let's surround them with weapons. I look at this room here and I'm like, okay, you basically need Drake May to be Josh Allen this year, because the weaponry is comparable to some of these Bills teams, which is like non-existent. And I don't think Drake May in year 2 is good enough to buoy a really poor wide receiver room. And maybe people are higher on Diggs or the rookie Kyle Williams than me, but this is still a pretty bad talent core for Drake May to make him look good.
Okay, so you're saying this the same way that I am. I look at his options, and I don't like any of them. Maybe they had to run Diggs out of Buffalo like 2 years ago because he was becoming washed. And now they're bringing him in and be like, oh, what a wide receiver one for Drake May. And Drake May showed, like, maybe this is just all in my mind. And I actually do like Drake May. And I think that he can be good. I just don't think that he's good yet, that he is a product of great fantasy points, zero real life production when it actually matters. He was real good when they got down by 17 points.
Yeah, no, well, and that's the thing to me, is like, they are treating him like he's an established superstar with how little weaponry. And they did draft Trevion Henderson. I think that's going to help. He's really explosive. I think can play out of the passing game. That gives them a much needed weapon, but you're still a ways away. Like, you need a legit wide receiver to take this team seriously. And you can look across the league. It really is, the Bills are the only exception of an elite team that hasn't just really hit a home run with their pass catching. You look at what the Eagles did. It's like, yeah, we're going to draft Devontae Smith. We are going to get Dallas Goedert. We are going to, trade for AJ Brown, make these big moves to bolster around your young quarterback. And I think New England's still a year or two away from doing that. And so I'm with you. I get spooked, like, when I'm doing these drafts, and like, Kyle Williams is the most expensive 3rd round rookie in drafts. Pat Bryant goes 50 picks after him, the Ty Felton and Savion Williams and all these other 3rd round wide receivers go at like pick 200, but we're drafting Kyle Williams at pick 120 because a few film guys liked his tape and he landed in an open depth chart in New England. And I'm like, we just did this last year with Jalen Polk, who was a bust of all busts. We've done this with Tyquan Thornton. We have done this with N'Keal Harry, Aaron Dobson. You can go down the list. Like, this team can't draft a wide receiver or recruit one of them to save their lives. They threw money at Chris Godwin. Godwin said, no, I'll stay in Florida. They threw money at Calvin Ridley. No. Like, they have thrown money at every free agent wide receiver and no one has wanted to go there.
I think that actually works out to their favor in the long run. Because do you really want Calvin Ridley? What was Calvin Ridley doing for you, honestly?
They have so much money to spend. That's the thing. They like led the league in cap space. It was just like, we could spend all this money and it's not even going to hurt us because it's just sitting around doing nothing. I think they're trying to sell their fans on anything and make Drake May's life a little easier. Like, getting to throw to Calvin Ridley is a lot better than just throwing to Demario Douglas.
Is it?
Yeah.
Calvin Ridley's 1v1 Calvin Ridley is better than Demario Douglas. But it does feel like, Ridley's is Ridley even older now? How many years did he have to sit out?
He just had ended up being like an 18-month hiatus or something.
Yeah, like, I get that you have all this money, but at some point, like, do you really want to be spending money on a 30-year-old receiver who's, wasn't even like a top 30 receiver in the league last year, but you're going to sign him to a 4-year deal? Like, I don't know. Maybe have the money to start allocating this now. Be like, all right, we need to start thinking, hey, Drake May is going to be the guy of the future. We're going to need to ink him to, Lord knows what that contract's going to be like when it finally comes up. So 4 years from now, they'll do it after 3 years, 10 years, $500 million. That's probably what quarterbacks get paid then.
Well, but that's what they ended up doing with Diggs, right? They just kept going down the line of these veteran wide receivers who rejected them, and then they had to take the worst of the bunch. I guess they were one away from having to settle for Keenan Allen, who's the only other kind of like remaining free agent wide receiver who could even do anything. I actually think Keenan Allen would be a decent fit for New England, give them another weapon. But yeah, they just they couldn't be choosy because no one wanted to go play there. But I'm with you. I don't think Diggs is going to be a needle mover. And again, kind of like on the Rodgers conversation, this is a guy who was pouting on the field, on the sidelines in Houston because he was getting out-targeted by Nico Collins, who's an infinitely better player than him at this stage of his career. So if Drake May isn't peppering him with targets, I think he's going to have another meltdown there too. I don't know how this is going to work out.
I don't think it works out well. I would rather roll out the 7 second round, third round, fourth round pick guys that I have, unless they're deluding themselves into thinking like, oh, we're not only are we going to make the playoffs this year, like we're going to like sneak up on some people and like win a round or two and be a real basically do what Washington did last year. But there was at least enough established pieces in place, and Daniels is way better than what May showed last year. Like if May could get to 80% of what Jaden Daniels was last year, they might actually be a pretty good team because that would be an excellent quarterback. But I would rather try to duke it out with these receivers that you already have on your roster that are super cheap, only because I would like to figure out which one of these guys are good and which one of these guys are not good, and then start putting the money in place for those guys in the future. I think that's where Vrabel might come in a little bit better, because I don't think Gerard Mayo had a clue with any of that stuff, that you bring in an adult who's going to be there for a while, let him make the decisions about the talent that ends up getting on the field. Like, how good is Jalen Polk? I don't think that we know. Like, is he absolutely terrible? Or is he was in a horrible situation in a really bad offense last year? Boy, he was a second round pick?
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I think for this to work out, Drake May has to take a massive leap, and Trevion Henderson has to basically be the second coming of Jahmyr Gibbs. And if that's the case, maybe they can score enough points to look interesting. But this team still has year away written all over it. And they have to, I think, get a first round wide receiver talent at some point because they're not coming in free agency. And I think that means they're going to have to invest in it in the draft.
What about if Steph Diggs was only signed to provide Tusi for the entire team?
In that case, great for the locker room. Although Vrabel might disagree with that, but at least for morale, maybe that is the bonding agent, to bridge the divide between the veteran and the rookies.
Yeah, you probably don't want to see these people like the morning after, but night of, great spirits for everyone, I would guess.
Yeah, and it looks like that is already blown over at this point. Vrabel had to address it. It seems like they've moved on. There's clips of Diggs and his teammates saying he's a great teammate and a leader. So I think they've brushed it under the rug at this point.
I mean, I don't really care what guys get up to during the offseason. He's like a 33-year-old dude or however. I keep thinking everyone's way older than they are because I'm old now. I assume that everyone's old if they've been in my life for long enough. But Diggs has to be at least 30, right?
Yeah, and like the thing is like when you sign Stefon Diggs, you're entering the Stefon Diggs business. It's going to come with a bunch of off the field shenanigans. Like he is an unabashed diva. Like that is part of it. So it's like you sign Stefon Diggs and think he's going to immediately like be a choir boy and falling in line to the Patriot way, which died a few years ago. That's wishful thinking. So I think the Patriots kind of knew this kind of stuff was going to come and they just have to roll with it.
He's 31. He'll be 32 during the season. He's an early 90s kid. So, yeah, it's not great that he's filmed. I mean, you don't see him doing drugs. You just see him around drugs. And 2C of anything like that. I always thought it was called 2Z, but apparently it's 2C. I have some friends who really enjoy this stuff. They're at raves on weeknights and, while I'm at home. I would have hoped that, like, you would have known some people who may have been on the boat with him, Pete. Now that you're a dad and you're old now too, it can't be you. You don't know anyone that was out there?
No, I don't. Everything I learn about drugs, I learn about through NFL players. It's all, it's all secondhand knowledge. No firsthand experience over here.
Right now at omahasteaks.com, you can get 50% off site-wide. Plus, our listeners can get an extra $45 off with promo code MAYO at checkout because 4th of July is coming up. I only lived in the United States for 2 4th of Julys, and they were probably the 2 best cookouts that I've ever been a part of. And with Omaha Steaks, you can enhance your experience and have everything sent directly to you. Make it much easier on yourself, and you can enjoy USDA certified tender steaks, juicy burgers, and so much more. And you'll get back that time that you have to spend at the grocery store, at the butcher, wherever it might be trying to pick it up. omahasteaks.com will have you covered. One-stop shopping at omahasteaks.com for all your cookout needs. Get fired up for 4th of July with Omaha Steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com for 50% off site-wide during their 4th of July sale and earn an extra $45 off. Use promo code MAYO at checkout. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $45 off with promo code MAYO at checkout. See site for details. You ever feel like car shopping's designed to make you second guess yourself? Is this a good price? Am I making the right choice? With CarGurus, you don't have to wonder. They have the most inventory of new and used cars so you can find the best deal. And with unbiased deal ratings, price drop alerts, and in-depth vehicle reviews, you'll make the decision you can feel great about because a big deal should never feel like a big risk. With over 4 million listings, CarGurus has more car listings than any other major online automotive marketplace in the US, so you can find that best deal. And it's no wonder SimilarWeb's estimated traffic data shows CarGurus is the #1 most visited car shopping site. Buy or sell your next car today with CarGurus at CarGurus.com. Go to CarGurus.com to make sure that your big deal is the best deal. That's CarGurus.com. CarGurus.com. The Travelers Championship, the Northeast's one and only PGA Tour signature event. Can it surpass the excitement of last year's thrilling finale when Scottie Scheffler broke away from the loaded leaderboard with 3 straight birdies on the back 9 during the final round, leading to a dramatic one-hole playoff with Tom Kim, winning him his 6th PGA Tour victory of the season? Will Scottie repeat as champion? Come watch as the world's best PGA Tour players try and dethrone him. All of them competing all 4 days at TPC River Highlands. The action begins June 19th and runs through June 22nd. For tickets and information, visit TravelersChampionship.com to see the greats, including Scottie Scheffler, Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, Ludwig Oberg, and the rest. The Travelers Championship, there is only one. What are the vibes with the Patriots locally?
It's interesting. I talk about them with my in-laws because my in-laws are from here and they're big Patriots fans. And I think they're getting sold a little bit on on Drake May. People are very excited about Drake May, and I think rightfully so. It's hard to land a franchise quarterback, and he seems to look the part. And I do think the Vrabel thing was another thing of like, everyone's like feeling like they're on this, rocky ship, and it's like, okay, the water's a little steady. Vrabel's here now. So I think they're cautiously optimistic. I haven't seen like a lot of, hopium or wish casting where they like think they're a playoff team. I think most fans realize they're still a year or two away, but I think they're optimistic that they're headed in the right direction.
I can buy that. I would be optimistic too if I was a Patriots fan that they're heading in the right direction. But I also know Patriots fans that slight optimism turns into Super Bowl very quickly.
Yes. Oh, for sure. I mean, this team, like, can you imagine, like, if they were to sneak into a wild card game this year, like they'll be pounding the table to be Super Bowl favorites next year.
So where do the Patriots kind of stack up now? Like, are people seem to be out on the Red Sox? I saw they may like traded one of their best guys the other day. The Bruins didn't do that well. Tatum's hurt for the year. Is this the nadir of Boston sports over the last 20 years?
It is crazy. Like, yeah, you talk to Boston fans about the Red Sox. They're just so depressed. And you just mentioned the Devers thing. The Celtics look like they're full blown up. They basically say everyone except Tatum is available. I do not want to endure any of these tears, though. I mean, I always get the, like, you don't know how hard it was before the 2000s for us. I'm like, just get out of here. Like, when you've won that many championships, the clock resets. You're back to being an insufferable franchise. You don't get to tell me about how hard it was 30 years ago or whatever.
Davis is trying to prop up Chiefs fans like this right now, but I don't find the Chiefs as hateable as everyone else seems to, or at least how it's presented to me that people hate the Chiefs. Like, who hates Patrick Mahomes?
No, and I think I noticed, though, leading up to the Super Bowl, I do think there was this, like, I'm just so sick of the Chiefs. But now that energy has been deflated. Now that the Eagles won, I feel like we're back to them not being a hateable franchise because they don't possess the characteristics that Belichick and Brady era team where they're just the total villains and whatever. They are pretty likable guys. And so it was just the fact for me, I didn't hate them. I was just so sick of them winning. It wasn't their brand of football necessarily. It was just, I want something different. And now that we got it, I'm like, I'm back to the idea of like Mahomes having, a throwback renaissance year where, he throws 50 touchdown passes or whatever. Like, I'm open to that. That's fun. He's a really good quarterback. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
What's the sentiment on Belichick in New England these days? What are your in-laws saying about Belichick?
I think it is wild. Like, you think about personal branding. Can you think of another example where someone's personal brand has done such a 180 from being this stoic NFL mastermind, like the greatest coach of all time, to like, I literally hear the word Bill Belichick and I think tabloid fodder. Like, I think a lot of people's first connotation of Bill Belichick is now the creepy old dude who dates the 22-year-old that he met when she was like 18 on a plane, who now controls his entire life and couldn't get an NFL job because no one wanted to let him have, GM characteristics and was forced to go coach at like an okay college. Like, I have just never seen a rebrand as drastic and as quickly as it happened with Bill Belichick.
I don't understand it at all. And that's maybe why I'm so fascinated by it. But I refuse to do the deep digging on it. I feel like there's something there that I just don't want to know about. Like, I've heard accusations of like elder abuse being thrown out, but like he's running a football program. He's clearly in like a good enough mind space that they allow him to do that. He's probably like the highest paid employee of North Carolina.
Oh, easily. Yeah, he is. I think I heard that for sure. He had that weird year too, right? Where he did the gap year and he did a lot of media stuff. There was even the story about that came out. Pablo Torre did the whole investigative report on what all of the, the Jordan Hudson, takeover of Bill Belichick. And she was trying to insert into the Bill Belichick underdog ad. And I think he's just like trying to figure out what he wants to do. And he did that year where he dabbled in media. And I think he's feeling like this push-pull where we always would have just assumed this is just a football guy. Like, this guy just wants to eat, breathe, sleep football until the day he dies. And then he kind of tastes a little bit of that media life, his girlfriend's, into the media side, being his PR person. And I do wonder if he's just like pulled in so many directions right now that he doesn't know what he wants.
I actually liked him. I thought that he was on too many podcasts and media things. But when he was on with the Mannings on the Manning cast, they should have just hired him as the third guy.
Yeah, I mean, now that he has a little bit more media training and he's opening up. I listened to this podcast, and it's more like a business podcast, and the guy had Bill Belichick on it. I actually listened to it and thought he had some good takeaways about, leadership and how to run organizations, and some good ways about how he approached things. So he's getting some media chops. But it just seems like he's in a weird spot right now of like, is he going to want to play the game that college coaches have to do, which is not only are you a coach, but you're having to like manage students. You're having to be a recruiter. You're having to be a PR person with the boosters, all of these things that don't seem like things Bill Belichick would want to do.
Is this where she comes in? Is she doing the active recruiting? Because I mean, if it was me and I was 17 looking to commit to a school, like, do I even know who Bill Belichick is at this point? But he's got this hot babe walking around. Let's go for her.
Well, that's the funny thing too about thinking about his reputation of like, if you were someone who were going to go to UNC to play for Bill Belichick, has this changed your perception of who Bill Belichick is? Because like I said,
what is your perception of Bill Belichick if you're 17? He hasn't been, they won the Super Bowl in what, 2017, 2016?
Yeah. No, that's why I think it's like, oh, it was that guy who used to be a really good coach who now is, on the cover of Page 6, like all the time. Like, yeah, how much of a draw is Bill Belichick for a 17-year-old recruit at this point? Like the fact that he has an 18-year-old girlfriend, I don't know if that is what's tipping me over of going there instead of Alabama.
Have you followed any of this flag football stuff in the Olympics?
A little bit, just that the existing flag football guys are like really upset because the NFL guys are going to come and take their spots.
Are they going to do it though? Because I always wonder about this. My inclination would be to say yes, that Tyreek Hill in flag football in the Olympics would probably be better than anyone that actively plays flag football. We just saw this in volleyball in the Olympics. Was it Chandler Parsons? I think it was Chandler Parsons.
Oh, yeah.
He was just on the U.S. Olympic volleyball team.
Yeah. I mean, I think because the NFL owners, voted unanimously, we're going to let our guys play in this. I think Mahomes has already come out and said, like, I'll let some of the young bucks do it. I don't want to do it. But then some of the like major wide receivers, I think Justin Jefferson was like, yeah, let's go. I'm stoked to go play in this. So if you get a few of those big names, I think a lot of these guys could get pretty interested in doing it. It's just so funny because like the one guy, and I don't remember his name, he's like the quarterback for the US flag football team right now. And like some clips went viral of him throwing. And I'm like, I'm sure he's very athletic. Like you don't become, the quarterback of the best flag football team in the United States without having some talent. But he just has this really janky throwing motion, like really sidearmy, just not aesthetically pleasing. And it's like, I'm sorry, dude. But like if Joe Burrow wants to go throw balls at the Olympics, we're going to send Joe Burrow and not you.
See, I don't know about that because this happens sometimes when you see former NFL guys go to the CFL, that there are certain brands of football that are just specifically tailored to types of players. Like if you have small hands, like the CFL ball is way bigger than the NFL ball, like it's hard to grip. So someone like John Beck, for example, had he have come to play in the CFL, he would be no good. You also need to have like a cannon arm because the field is way bigger in the CFL. But then you have someone like, the hell is his name? Devin. It's not Devin Banks. Devin Banks is someone from a movie. The guy that used to play for Washington. He used to be a kick returner. He was super fast. Last name Banks. I think he ended up winning CFL MVP at one point because his skill set doesn't translate to the NFL 1v1. Like Darren Sproles would have been the best player in the CFL. And that's like taking most of the good players at his position in the NFL. Like there's only so much running between the tackles you can do. But if you have that sort of lateral quickness speed, you're absolutely unstoppable on a field that big. I wonder if the same thing is true about flag football, that there are certain players that are more designed to be better at that format of game rather than just simply the best football players as we traditionally think about it from an NFL context.
Well, that's a good point. And maybe because the game requires so much scrambling from the quarterback, Joe Burrow's probably a bad example. But like, how about, let me reframe it. If Justin Fields or Lamar wants to go, one of these guys that can actually run, it's like, yeah, I'm not worried about Lamar Jackson's game translating there. And it's just like, can you imagine Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson just like mossing, some poor, group of 5'10" guys from Yugoslavia or wherever we're going to be playing? It would be very enjoyable to watch.
Well, that's the thing. How many people are on a flag football team for starters? I actually have no idea.
That's a really good question. I feel like I've heard like 7-on-7s is like the the number I normally hear?
So let's see. Roster size flag football Olympics. In the 2028 LA Olympics, flag football teams will have 10 players on their
Okay.
rosters with 5 people on the field at the same time. It's a 5-on-5 team.
Okay.
How many teams of 10 from the United States could you build before another country would be better than that team?
It's got to be like 10 teams. Oh yeah, I mean, I was trying to be generous, but you're right. It's probably a lot, especially because too. I mean, a lot of these fringe sports, right? It's like if you want to participate in the Olympics and you have like some vague citizenship connection in one of these small countries, you go do it because it'll be like there's 3 people who want to be on the bobsled team. I actually listened to a podcast the other day, and the guy was talking about how the track and field in the United States is so competitive, but they try to recruit some of the fringe track and field athletes to bobsledding because they need really fast pushers, and there's no competition. Like no one is actually lining up to go do these things. So yeah, the level of football quality you might see from some of these other countries might be pretty laughable.
It happened in golf. Rory Sabatini was from Zimbabwe or South Africa, but then all of a sudden he was just Slovakian. I think he won a silver medal in the Olympics because no one from Slovakia plays golf. He just decided that I'm going to be Slovak. He must have had some sort of tie to it. You could probably make it up if you wanted to. And then he's competing for Slovakia. But I kind of see it the same way that the World Baseball Classic happens. But I guess the Olympics would be a bit more difficult to do that. Where in the World Baseball Classic, it's like, oh yeah, I have an Italian sounding last name. I can play on Team Italy.
Yeah, no, I mean, a lot of people know her now. She assistant coach on the Spurs, Becky Hammon. She initially, had a successful WNBA career. The United States women's team didn't want to give her a spot. And it was like one of her last dreams as part of her career to play in the Olympics. She like really wanted to play for the US. She ended up getting a spot to go play for Russia. And it's like a lot more of a, diplomatic, problematic thing in these days than it was, I think like 10 or some years ago when she did it. But like for some of these people whose dream is to play in the Olympics, sometimes you got to make it work outside of your home country.
Yeah, Canadians in like the mid 80s to mid 2000s just recruited a lot of, especially Jamaican sprinters, just to be Canadian. It worked out great, man. When Donovan Bailey, he had Ben Johnson on the juice in '88, and he ended up winning and had to give it back. But it felt like everyone was on the juice in 1988. They were all, for sprinters, they were all really jacked.
Oh yeah. So who do you think would be the best at flag football? Who else would be on your dream roster for it?
For the U.S.?
Yeah. Or Canada. Feel free to build your Canadian team.
I mean, besides, I don't even know who you put on the team. It would be Josh Palmer, Chuba Hubbard. You'd probably have to get like defensive players to play offense for you.
Yeah.
Like Javon Holland, throw him out there. St. Just, you could throw out there. I have no idea. I'm sure. But again, it might be a thing where if you're just really good at flag football and you know the nuances of that game, that might supersede just sheer talent of being an athlete. Like when you see, I don't know, Team Switzerland in soccer beat the shit out of the Americans. You're like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, even though soccer's way down on the priority list. I'm pretty sure the more skilled guys and like even the better guys, the more athletic guys are on Team USA. But Switzerland just understands the nuances of soccer so much more. They beat them.
Yes. I think, the thing I'm thinking about is obviously with flag football, you have to be elusive, right? There's a lot of like just backing up as someone lunges at your flag. I'm thinking of guys like Tyreek Hill in the open field, Xavier Worthy, the super quick lateral movement guys. I think those are the ones who would translate the best. And I even wonder, like, obviously Justin Jefferson's incredibly good, but he's more like of a gazelle, like really precise with his movements. I think we want those like super quick twitch athletes. And I mean, the NFL is full of them. Yeah.
Brandon Banks was the guy that I was thinking of.
There you go.
Like he would be like you might find some like Team Canada might be okay because there might be dudes in the CFL who just have that specific skill set that they're super fast. They can't really do anything else, but that's good enough for flag football. Who else I was thinking of? I guess Eckler's legs are too big now. He's not as quick as he once was. Funny because you and I were talking. His name came up on the Best Ball Stream show that we did. But Malachi Corley would be a guy to be like, oh yeah, he sucks in the NFL, but he's awesome at flag football.
Yes, I could see that. And if for our running back, like we got to go Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, you want to talk about a guy who can make guys miss, run to day. Like, there's no one on this planet who is who's stopping him in that game.
But that could be it. Like, you could make a team of like Amir Abdullah. I bet you would be awesome.
Yeah, the lateral agility there. He was one of the best before he got older.
Yeah, like the undersized pass catching running backs might be exactly who you want for this.
Yeah. Yeah. You build it out of like, because height doesn't really matter. You're not like throwing to the boundary a ton. I guess my analogy of these guys mossing people, that's not really how flag football is played. It's more like quick crossers.
That's what I would think too. So then you have your Jamar Chase. And listen, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson would probably be fine at something like this. But their biggest advantage, besides their massive hand-eye, their speed, is their size versus NFL players. And you can't really use that in flag football.
Yeah. All right. Well, now I'm getting more excited. It'll be interesting to see when they actually announce the rosters and how many NFL athletes are willing to do it. But like, I do know for, the NBA stuff, and obviously NBA and basketball is a much bigger deal globally, but like, that's a cool notch in the resume for these guys as athletes. Like, being able to say you played in the NBA and went to the Olympics. Like, I'd see a lot of NFL guys being like, this is my one crack to be an Olympic athlete.
Yeah, here's the issue, though, because I have the same issue with women's hockey in the Olympics. There's 2 good teams in the world at women's hockey. Like, it shouldn't be an Olympic sport. Like, you need to have at least, let's say, 8 competitive teams in a sport, or 8 competitive players. It has been Canada versus the USA in every final ever since women's hockey has entered the Olympics.
You also, though, you got to start somewhere, right? Like,
you do, but like, it needs to be on like the non-competitive side of things. Like, it's a free medal for these countries, and this is essentially a free medal for the USA.
Well, things are not great down here, Pat, so we could kind of maybe use a free medal here or there. Just let us have this one, man.
You're going to win anyway. You need to win by more?
Yeah, just let us have this. Or, start your flag football camps. Europe has all of their soccer academies. You guys can start your own flag football academies.
Hey, listen, if there was some money behind it, I would probably do that. The last thing I want to hit with you is industry stuff. Obviously, you and Brick are on Lowell's every single week, talking about a lot of this stuff. You had Feinberg on 2 weeks ago. Can you give us the 1-minute summary of what Jeff was actually talking about on your show? Because he tried to do it to me at a lunch we had, and I stopped caring.
Even as someone who hosted Jeff, was not multitasking, was listening, engaged as he kind of outlined what had happened in this semi-private sports betting Telegram group poker game. I still don't actually know what happened. I think it boiled down to people thought a couple people were colluding or cheating in this game. And then Tommy G, who people from the DFS space might recognize, lost a lot of money. And Feinberg, while not in the game, I don't believe, is kind of in the mix of knowing all these personalities, covering it for another podcast. And so he tried to explain to us this drama. And then I've just seen all kinds of bits and pieces, but I really can't make heads or tails of it myself, honestly.
Would you enter a poker game with people you met through a Twitter Spaces whose identity you could not verify and play for substantial sums of money?
Well, maybe. So the funny thing is my last time playing like online poker like that was during COVID, right? And we were just all desperate for like forms of human connection. There was no sports being played. And so we were like, I remember our friends over at Roto Grinders hosted a poker tournament. I was like, this is fun. And, people were hosting their own poker groups. But now, absolutely not. Absolutely not would I be interested in spending my time like that. It almost feels like they were just trying to find a vehicle for drama. And I'm like, what, you guys need an online poker group right now? I mean, are these guys so starved for social interactions that this is what they had to resort to?
And at least the one you're talking about, Roto Grinders, was sort of the brand behind it, a brand you can trust. I mean, I would trust Roto Grinders.
Yeah.
That if they were putting it on, that I feel like I wouldn't be getting cheated if I was going to do it. We actually might even be doing because CoolBet has come on as a sports betting sponsor of this show. They're running poker tournaments as well. You can hit the link down in the description for all that, get a bonus. But there's going to be a final table or a final tournament in Tallinn, Estonia, that I think I'm going to play in a few of the qualifiers. And if you knock me out, like, you get extra prizes, that kind of thing. So if you're in Canada outside of Ontario and are, dabbling in the OLP. That's not Our Lady Peace. That's online poker. You can go to CoolBet and get acclimated with the games over there. We're going to be doing some giveaways like that. Has a reputable reputable brand behind it that you know that you're not going to get cheated when you play. That people in these Twitter spaces are insane. I clicked on one once for like 10 seconds and I was like, nope. It was the Grandpa Simpson walking in and walking out.
It's like, you know, in the DFS and fantasy space, we don't actually have that much drama. Like we'll have maybe like one juicy thing pop up a year, but like in the worlds of poker, it's actually really fruitful for like drama. There's always constant things popping up. And now the sports betting, you know, spaces has popped up, and it's almost like they're trying to manufacture drama because that's why people are tuning in. That's why Jeff is into it in the first place, right? Because he gets his popcorn and hops in the spaces, and it's like his version of a reality TV show. So I think people are being more and more absurd to just try to generate controversy, because otherwise sports betting is pretty boring as like a thing to, you know, hang out and talk about with spaces. Like you need people scamming each other and talking shit to make it interesting.
Well, poker works best for this because you could theoretically collude in poker, and people are always being staked by other people. So you might owe this guy money, or you might owe that guy money, and there's internal drama that way. I'm sure that exists, like some people playing on credit for sports betting. That doesn't really happen in DFS, does it? Like I'm sure it does at some level, but most people are not borrowing money to go play on underdog.
No, it's the space is still a little new for that. So yeah, shout out to all the sports betting people keeping it interesting, because every time I log on, there's two other people I vaguely am aware of just yelling at each other and calling each other the most vile thing. So you know, God bless them.
When Jeff said that Tommy was the most reasonable one of the group, I was like, whoa. Well, I don't think I need to be involved with this.
That was hilarious. That really level set for the type of characters that the sports betting world is attracting. And it's like, I think too, we were talking about it with Jeff. It's hard to have like wins and losses, like in DFS, right? And in fantasy, like we know who wins. We know who wins a tournament and who's doing generally pretty well. In sports betting, it's like, if you are doing really well, you should be limited by now. And then you're needing to play these shadow games with like a syndicate or whatever. And if you are able to bet as much as you want, so you're like bragging about it, then it's like, well, you're pretty bad because the books haven't cut you off. So I think it's hard to do like dick measuring at sports betting right now.
Yeah, it's also a weird thing to do because realistically, especially if you're in the space, that means you're a content provider. The way that you would know the winners from the losers, and I know that I'm losing this year because, you know, I have very few people like, thanks for the tip, Pat. There's very few of those this year because I've been losing on golf bets and I'm down money on that. But generally, like if you have a big enough audience and you're winning bets, you're just going to see a lot of people like being like, hey, man, thanks. I won a bunch of money. Sports betting should be the best community type thing because it's actually something you can win together doing.
Yeah. That's my favorite angle with all of sports betting is kind of the communal sweats, whether you're doing it with your college buddies or a group of people. We had a show on Ship Chasing this year where we would just go live during Thursday Night Football, and we would make our underdog pick'em entries, share them with our community, and for better or worse, we would all sweat them together. And people enjoyed watching, like, hey, when we're agonizing over something on screen, it's the exact same thing that you put your money on. And like, that's a fun way to sweat as opposed to like arbitrage betting in the darkness of your own basement.
Yeah, arbitrage betting. Listen, if you're making a killing on it, congratulations. But I'd find something else to do with my life.
Yes, exactly.
I couldn't do it. I did want to talk to you very quickly about the AI stuff. So obviously over at Yahoo, Andy Barron's head of the FSGA, a good friend of mine, got let go by Yahoo. Dalton Del Don, who I've known for probably almost 20 years at this point. He was let go. Two long-term guys at Yahoo, and it was the same week that these like awful AI generated articles started popping up. So they replaced the bloggers with aggregated AI content from other content they were doing. So Matt Harmon's podcast, I think Sal Vetri is still on there. And today, people made the conclusion that they got rid of these guys because of AI coming on, but Justin Boone just left the Score, and now he has become the lead fantasy analyst over at Yahoo. So they're replacing humans with at least one other human and AI at the same time. I just think this kind of speaks to a complete rebrand of Yahoo, to be perfectly honest with you. Like, I don't think that, hey, we're getting rid of these guys because of AI. I think they're using AI to supplement some of that stuff, but Yahoo isn't the Yahoo that I grew up with. And I think that I listened to you guys talk about it on Lowell's. You said that Nick had come out and said like, hey, Brad Evans used to be there. And Brad, I was exactly the same way. When I got into fantasy, Funston, Brad, and Andy were the guys that like I knew from Yahoo because I played on Yahoo. They had the most innovative platform. They had actual digital media 15 years ago when no one else did. They had podcasts. They had up-to-date stuff. Their stuff was funny. But it feels like they have just gone stale over the past 10 years.
Yeah, and that was kind of, my takeaway. And yeah, Nick Ercolano had a good take on it as well, where it's more about the changing media landscape and less about AI specifically. Obviously, AI is part of the story, but you think about Yahoo's place in the fantasy space and like the idea of a lot of things in culture, right? Like the monoliths or like the tent poles, and obviously you have the ESPN and CBS and Yahoo. Those were like the big three for me when I first started playing fantasy. Like those were the places that had content. And now everything is hyper niche focused, right? You think about all the different formats of fantasy, like the Dynasty crew, they have their thing. We have our best ball crew. We have our DFS salary cap crew. So it's all niche down. And then it's really personality driven. It's people like us having our YouTube channels, having our Discord communities. And I think it makes it harder for like these monoliths to really attract and grow their audience, because ultimately I do think people are looking for more specific things, and doing just generic fantasy advice, I feel like that's harder and harder to do at this point. And then you add in the AI element, which is, hey, the idea of, boilerplate templated fantasy content, that's going to get easier and easier to replicate by AI. And we can always debate how good that is or how far away we are from that actually happening. But it doesn't change the fact that, like, unless you're really personality driven, unless you have creativity, POV, you're interacting with your audience, like those are the elements that can ultimately be replaced.
I think I saw a Kalishi. Is it Kalishi? Is that the exchange?
The sports betting exchange.
Yeah, I saw that someone made a commercial for them that they like prompted Chat GPT to do. So they actually did the creative part of prompting video or whatever. I don't know if it was Chat GPT or not, but like a AI to make video for them, like each scene. They basically storyboarded what they wanted out from a commercial and then prompted it in a machine and made a 30-second commercial out of it. I never thought about using AI in a creative sense that way, but maybe it's just to do like how I'm sure that, I mean, you've seen Boogie Nights when they go from film to video. It's not the same, but then eventually someone figures it out. Even when they went from film to digital on screen in terms of like, I think it was Phantom Menace was like the first fully digital type movie. And then you see like 5 years later, people get a hold of the medium a little bit more and start making that stuff look actually good. I wonder if AI and prompting, because I know you've been on that for a long time, ends up becoming a more creative outlet to do some of this stuff.
Yeah, and I think if you're using it as a springboard or an idea generation tool, it is helpful. Like I'll use it occasionally for YouTube video titles where I'll say like, it's about these are kind of things. And generally what happens is there's not one title it gives me that I'm like, oh yeah, that's the title. But I'll be like, oh, I like that word choice you gave me. Oh, and this phrase down here is actually good. Then I mash it up, I punch it up, make it to something that works for me. So it can be really helpful to fast track things for you, make your life easier. I think it's the overall reliance on it right now. Like it can just spit out something that's usable. And one of the things that was so funny about the Yahoo article that got shared around is in their intro kind of caveat about the content. It acknowledged that it was AI, but it also said, if you notice any typos, let us know, which was so hilarious because it's like, if you're putting the onus on the reader to basically fix your AI slop, you've already lost the audience, because it's like, use the AI to help you. Like, still have an editor review this and make this look good. Like, you still have to pay an editor to do that, at least for now. So just openly admitting that you're not even going to have an editor review this just shows how quickly people are willing to use this as a crutch and not actually, make good content.
But I think it actually makes a lot of sense, because if you're farming from yourself, so let's say I start a website, patmayo.com, and I'm not going to have time to write 300 word articles per week on whatever it is that I want to do during like week 1 of fantasy football to week 2 of gambling in football. But if I do a show with Jake and we talk about 45 players on that show and we spend like a minute or so talking about them, I could probably put that podcast into AI and it would generate me 300 word 200-word snippets about each player that I talked about, sort of like that takes thing that comes out. But at least I would be able to quality control it. Like I'd have to get someone to read it over, not just spam publish it. I think that's where the issue comes in. But I could see how you're now generating content off content. It's no different than me taking this show that we did, cutting out 5 30-second clips and uploading them to TikTok.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the operative phrase there for me was quality control of like, yes, will we get to a point where this can probably do all this stuff with very minimal errors? I think you'd probably be dumb to bet against that just with how quickly things are evolving. But if you're trying to sell people on AI, if you're trying to say like, no, this can replicate or be a very useful extension of what we do, then you need to make sure someone else is vetting it and controlling that quality. Because my take on Lowell's was like the first impression thing is going to be significant. Like if you alienate people of the second they hear something was AI generated and all they think of is like, well, the first time I did this, I had to find all your typos for you. That's like not a way to make people more comfortable with it. So I think use it as a way to expedite your workflow, shorten how much time you have to spend on things, but you still have to invest in that quality control so people ultimately enjoy consuming that content regardless of how it was fully generated.
I worry about the notes writers from Roto World.
The blurbs.
Anyone who does blurbs, you feel like that's the first to go.
Yeah, I mean, obviously just the news itself, because it's aggregating news, so that can be done. And then, those guys do a really good job with the fantasy spin. And the best ones inject POV and personality and jokes in them. Someone like Roto
Pat and Denny do a great job.
They're so good. And like sometimes I just like skip the news and just read for their quip at the end. But yeah, like all of this stuff. And I think that's the lesson. It's like, you've got to be injecting personality and creativity in everything you do, because that's the one thing that can't be replicated, at least right now. And so that's what I'd be leaning into. That's what I plan to lean into. So
that was my take with Davis as well, that it's going to be hard to replicate a personality with this. But if you start injecting all this because we're used to, I'm sure this goes across every industry, but just to focus on fantasy and gambling. When I got into fantasy and gambling, like I said, Brad Evans, Matthew Berry, like they wrote like opus every single week, like funny humor, 1,000 words, fantasy football advice. Like that's what I was specifically geared to enjoy. And then I started writing columns exactly the same way, not exactly the same as them, but that sort of format where it was going to be funny. It was going to have information in it. It was going to have rankings in it. It was going to have some hot takes in it, but it would just be an enjoyable read. You could sit down for 15 minutes and read my once a week daily weekly column that came out on Thursday mornings. It used to be very stressful to write, but I felt a sense of accomplishment. But that's what it felt like the popular thing in fantasy was. If it's all AI stuff now, even crappy AI stuff now, we're boxing out the actual creative people, especially in the written word space. Is anyone going to get into the industry and be like, oh yeah, I want to write some cool columns? Like, no, you might be training the audience to not care about that stuff. And that is what I worry about, that maybe you can be as creative as you want. The audience just doesn't want that at a certain point in time.
Yeah. And I was talking about this with my wife the other day I was talking about like travel writers, and what would you rather, read a review from like one person, like going and visiting these places and, giving you the review, or like a really good AI trained thing that goes through thousands of reviews across Google and Yelp and TripAdvisor. And like also says like, we filtered out all of the reviews that include, for families, because you're just a couple and you want to get the perspective of just like couples who have gone to these places. And you think of all the like stuff you have to sift through. And I'm like, you can see the case for how the AI can give you like these things that you used to get from, say, a specific person. And then on the other hand, you think, okay, but the AI can't weave this story about why this trip to Italy meant so much to you because you were going to visit the places your dead father went to. Like I'm making extravagant examples, but it's like, you really have to think how, as a writer or a creator, you are basically engaging in really good storytelling and personality to stand apart for what AI is going to be able to do better than you.
Yeah, I do worry that if they do aggregate reviews of trips or hotels, that mainly the only people that leave reviews are people who hate the place.
True. Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like people though these days, like everyone is a content creator, and there's the type of people who leave reviews as like content creators where that's like their thing. They're like, every single restaurant I go to, remember when there was like the beer thing for a while, it was like called Untapped.
Yeah.
People would review every single beer they tried. So I don't know, I still see a decent amount of 5 and 4-star reviews when I look at them.
It's funny because I will go and rate the hotels afterwards if I go on a trip, and I'll, if I liked it. I'm not one to leave a 4-star review. It's either a 5-star or a 1-star. That should really be the scale.
Yes.
Was it good
Yeah.
or was it not good?
The reviews that crack me up is when people are sharing like an experience that is completely unique to them, that there's no way it is good. They'll be like, oh, there was a festival, an Irish festival across the street, so I couldn't find parking. And I'm like, well, guess what? There's not going to be an Irish festival when I go. So your 2-star review doesn't help me out.
Yeah, but everyone's a main character in their own story. They're leaving a review for themselves, not for you. They just want to complain and try to bring down the business because something somewhat inconvenienced them. That's why I get rid of the star reviews. Just have, maybe you can have 3. You can have pass, okay, fail.
Yes. No, it would be helpful. I still appreciate like scanning through reviews. I think I still use it a lot. Like if I'm looking up a restaurant for us and there's like 3 in the area, like my brain still gravitates to the one that's a 4.6 as opposed to the 4.4. And sometimes you dig into the reviews and you realize like, okay, there's pros and cons to each of these, but my brain is still wired to want the best reviews of places I go.
So I don't do that so much for restaurants. I do it for hotels because I had to book a whole bunch of hotel rooms when we did the live show, bringing people in town, whatever it might be. So I went, the cost-effective route. So I was like, what's the best, cheapest hotel I can find? But when I go to that hotel, and it was actually way nicer than the price that I paid for, I was actually somewhat surprised. But like, yeah, if I get $1,000 a night room, I expect it to be a certain way versus the $300 a night.
Right.
Downtown in a city. Like I don't expect the $300 one to look like the $1,000 one, but some people do. And that's what I find really throws off the reviews of some of these places. Like, well, the concierge didn't even have a concierge. Like, well, you're not staying at a 5-star hotel. What do you want?
It's like it's someone who goes to McDonald's and complains. It's like you're at McDonald's and they're asking to get treated to if they're at a 5-star meal. Yeah. Like not understanding where you're at. And being able to put that review in perspective of the expectations, that is frustrating.
All right, Pete Overzet. You can check him out on the Pete Overzet YouTube channel and the Lowell's YouTube channel every Thursday. Do you guys go live every Thursday? I saw Brick was pretty late in putting up that podcast this week.
That was actually me. I don't know if you experienced this at all, but on Thursday there was huge like Cloudflare and Google and StreamYard issues that wiped out the streams. Brick was actually broadcasting on his own, and I couldn't even download my own audio from the provider. I had to try to go to YouTube to rip it. And so it took me until Saturday to get the audio.
If you ever have problems with that, let me know. I got some hacks behind that, but I was done content last week, Wednesday morning, and then I didn't go live again until Friday evening because of the golf. Like, as it turns out that when a major's going on, me releasing a show in the, round 1 of the US Open, not going to do great. So I just stopped doing it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Cannibalizing, or it's the Davis Matic. You go live during the NFC Championship game and see how that works out for your numbers.
That actually I could see working out if you were doing a watch-alike campaign. Like we did the Cut Sweat live for round 2 of the US Open, so we went 3 hours at the end of round 2. Those shows always do really, really well.
For sure,
everyone's just watching it anyway. We didn't even put ourselves on screen. We just show the leaderboard. We just sit back and watch TV and talk.
Yeah. No, the problem with the Davis example is he was drafting a basketball team. He wasn't even talking about the game. So,
so you got the best ball stream. How often are you going? Because I was just on with you on Monday. Is that a Monday 4-hour thing?
Yeah, I used to do like a couple smaller streams during the week, and I was like, let's just go big. As you know, the YouTube algorithm likes those long shows. So yeah, I do a solo draft. I have Pat Crane, who won BBM 3 as a rotating guest, our friend Mike Leone from ETR, and then each week I rotate a 4th guest, try to get some some mixture in there. You drafted with me today. I'm gonna have Nick Ercolano swing by draft with me in a couple of weeks. So like to keep it fresh and draft all summer long.
Yeah, and if you're fans of the PME and you want to get a laugh, go over and check out the live chat replay of when I'm on, because I basically go full me to my chat on Pete's chat, and there were people who did not know what was going on.
I actually just right before we started had renamed the episode. I'm going with a best ball value hound and Pat Mayo's heel turn, so people can turn in to figure out what that heel turn was.
It was good. I feel like I would play a good villain in like a campy 80s comedy.
I could so see it. Or like, even in like Mighty Ducks where you have like the Icelandic thing, I can picture you in a full tracksuit, just looking really slick and being the villain. I can picture that.
I wish my hair would do the slick back, but it just kind of goes all the way up instead of slicking back, which is a real problem for me. I can never, was it Gunnar Stahl? Could never be Gunnar Stahl.
Yeah, I think you can pull it off. When we make the DFS movie, we can have you do that.
That would actually, see, there's a show for you. Cast the DFS movie.
Man, that's another show. That sounds like a show right up your alley.
It does. I mean, if you guys want to take it for lulz, you can, or we can do a combo on that.
Well, that's the thing where you start with the Tommy G, and it can be a bank heist movie, and he's just a method actor who already has done that in real life. It's perfect.
It's Tommy G leading an Ocean's 11 style crew with DFS people.
Yeah. Yeah, and Davis Maddock is the little Asian contortionist who's able to get into the small areas to help them break it.
All right, I'm Pat Mayo. You can follow me at the PME. Give me your team with the fewest wins in the comment section. Smash the like while you're here. And if you want more best ball advice, head over to Pete's channel. Use code Mayo at Underdog. I'll be doing pick'em stuff. He's doing some draft stuff. If you like them both, hey, check out both channels. All right, I'm Pat Mayo. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo experience. Experience.